Hello and welcome to Money Matters. I'm Sarah Peterson here with Dean Greenberg, president and founder of Greenberg Financial Group. How are you today?
I'm doing great.
You're always doing great, aren't you? I don't think I've ever seen you where you're not just doing great. It's a good day.
Well, when we're here to help people and give good advice, I'm doing great.
Speaking of good advice, I want to talk about retirement specifically because as we know that there's so many different phases of your financial life, right? And how do we prepare to retire maybe in our 50s and 60s, which is, arguably earlier than most people do, but as the world has been so tumultuous, have seen a lot of people sort of deciding they don't want to do it anymore. They want to just enjoy their lives. And how do we prepare for that?
Well, obviously you have to prepare before you get to your 50s and 60s. But what I wanted to do today is concentrate on, if you're in your 50s and 60s, what are the things you have to do? All right, you should have a plan before that, but if you haven't, you need to put a plan together. Mm-hmm. Planning is so important. And, people say, well, what is a plan? I have a plan. What is your plan? People don't know what a plan is because our parents never had a plan. A lot of people my age, your age, don't have a plan. Planning doesn't mean you have your whole life mapped out. But a plan is something sort of like a roadmap of trying to get from point A to point B, and there's things you have to do in between.
Well, what a plan is not is a stack of statements. If I come to you and say, Dean, here's my plan, that's not a plan. No. But what you're talking about is also something that's completely personalized to, my needs, right?
Your
not
needs.
Something that is cookie cutter that we can just say, here's what you need to do. We don't know you. We need to get to know you.
Too many plans are prepared by people who want to sell a product. We prepare a plan to get you through your whole retirement. The biggest thing people worry about is running out of money. We do not want you to run out of money. So planning has a lot of things that are not concrete. You have to talk about budgeting. You have to talk about things you don't want to really talk about, like death, healthcare, children, parents, things like that you have to bring into the plan that are costly. And we all know you might have a budget and all of a sudden your air conditioner goes out, or your stove goes out, or your car breaks down. There's so many things that happen. So you should be starting before you're 50, but I want to talk today about being 50 and 60. So if you've done the right things and you're going in the right direction, what you need to start when you're in your 50s is working out a way to be getting out of debt. If you can be out of debt by the time you're 60, you're doing a really good job. And I'm talking about bad debt. I'm talking about getting rid of your credit card debt.
Thank you for saying that, because I want to clarify. I think a lot of people there's a generational gap there I've seen, but people look at all debt is bad debt, and that is not necessarily the case.
Exactly. Good debt, bad debt. I've taught my kids that forever. And I teach that to a lot of people. Good debt is debt that you're taking out debt on investments that can appreciate. Bad debt is the depreciation. Now, one bad debt that we could use is a car. We all need a car, right? But it does depreciate. But at the end, is it worth something? Yes. Or if you're leasing, well, it's a payment, but you have to have one. But bad debt is credit card debt. That's not good debt. Bad debt is buying a vacation and I'll pay it later, or buying furniture, buy now, pay later. Those things are such bad debt, it's not even funny. Credit card debt. Let's talk about credit card debt. You have to look at it and you got to get it done. People pay the minimums. It will increase how much you pay over time, because if you're paying the minimums, I promise you your interest rates are 16, 17 to 28%. You miss one payment, they're going to be 26, 27%. You'll never pay them off, and you'll increase it, and they'll increase your credit line as long as you're doing it. That is the worst debt you can have. And there are ways to go ahead and get out of that. We teach people that. So, you start putting a budget together as part of your plan, and in that budget, what you try to do is maybe get credit cards to go ahead and that you're not paying interest for a year, and you put more money towards that, pay that down, and you keep swapping on. But you got to get done with debt. A school loan debt. Everyone's not going to give you off on your school loan debt. Try to get that paid off. What else have you got? Car debt. You'd like to get that paid off by the time you're 60. Any debt you have. If you have a mortgage, you don't have to pay that off. But if you can pay that off later on, I used to be totally against it, right? Don't pay off your debt. But if you have a 2% mortgage or a 3% mortgage, not bad. But now mortgages have moved up to 6, 7%. That's a different story. But it makes people stressless. Because when you get your 60s and 70s, you don't want to have that stress. And the number one thing that brings on stress is debt.
And it's interesting because I have a family member who just recently retired and purchased a new home at a 3%, a rate. And she was like, I don't want to have a mortgage. I've never, but we tried to explain to her, well, that's 3% you're paying on this, but you could make 4 or 5 or 6% in another investment. So it's not necessarily a bad debt. And her home has appreciated so much since she bought it.
Let's just go down. Let's do a little bit of a calculation on that. If 3 years ago you bought a house for $500,000, and you got a mortgage for $400,000 at 3%. You put down 100. You got 400,000. You can now put that $400,000 into a 4% treasury. Okay, 4% treasury, and that will pay your mortgage. Think about that.
Yeah.
So now you still have your 400,000. You're paying the interest. You're getting a write-off. That's smart debt, and that's good debt. Just get rid of your bad debt. So there's number one. So what else do you do in your 50s? Well, you want to go ahead and try to figure out where you want to do, what kind of lifestyle you want to have, where do you want to live. People say, what do you mean where do I want to live? Well, it's important because, my wife always thought, oh, I want to move to Italy at least 6 months out of the year, right? Until guess what? Grandchildren. All of a sudden, we have a grandchild. I don't know if I want to move to Italy. I want to go there for a month at a time, but, I think we want to build a house here. So things change. And as they change, you change. And that's okay. But understand this, you've got to plan for that. It just doesn't happen. Grandchildren mean so much to parents and all. Where do your kids live? How are you going to see them? I have another friend. He was going to pick up and sell his house and move to New York because his daughter had a grandchild. He called me last week. I'm so happy my house didn't sell. I went back to New York. I hated going back and living in New York. So
speaking from a New Yorker, right. I know things have changed there.
Exactly. He goes, I'll go stay there for a month or two and see the grandchild. They can come down and see me. I was going to go into a one-bedroom apartment. People make emotional decisions. They have to stop those things.
All right, Dean, I got to stop you there. We always run out of time, but we're going to take a quick commercial break. I just want to ensure that you come back with us because we have so much more to talk about how to avoid these pitfalls in your 50s and 60s that will get you ready for retirement successfully. That phone number is 844-544-4909. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
How confident are you in your current financial plan? Do you know with certainty how the recent market volatility will affect your future hopes and dreams? How much are you paying in taxes? And how much are you losing to unnecessary high fees? You didn't work to save this money so that you could spend your time worried in retirement. Now is the time to take charge of your finances so you can feel confident about your future. Call in during the next 30 minutes of today's show only. To set up an absolutely complimentary, no obligation, full-blown financial review that will result in your own customized written plan that we're giving away complimentary to the first 10 people who respond. We'll start with a full-blown analysis of what you already have. By running a report to untangle how much you are currently paying in fees, how you're allocated for risk, and what it's costing to work with your current advisor. Next, we'll identify your goals. Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? Where do you want to go, and who do you hope to go there with? Is your current financial plan set up to get you there without mishap? Let's design a roadmap to create a financial plan you can follow with confidence. Get the piece that so many people are missing from their retirement. Find out how having a written plan can make a difference to your retirement dreams. Call now to schedule your complimentary, no-obligation, full-blown financial review today.
Hello and welcome back to Money Matters. I'm Sarah Peterson here with Dean Greenberg of Greenberg Financial Group. And before the break, we're talking about how to successfully prepare, get yourself ready for retirement in your 50s and 60s.
So, okay, we talked about getting rid of debt, planning where you want to go. So investment-wise, okay, You got to make sure you're protected first, all right? You know, when you're young, you want life insurance. You want to make sure you have all that stuff. Now you have to look at it. Do you have life insurance to cover expenses that you might have, like your mortgage and stuff? So you got to have some. You have to have that protection. But you have to now start looking towards long-term care. Because people don't realize if something happens to you or your spouse, now you have to have two incomes, and you don't. And so you have to look at making sure that you have that covered. And now, how you invest your money is very important. You don't want to be as risky as you were before, but you don't want to be scared. So you have to find out what your risk tolerance is from the emotional side. And they have to find an advisor, as we've always been talking about, how you can mitigate risk and still make money, especially in the type of volatile markets that are here, and they're going to stay here for a while. And the way you do that is through your planning, what your needs are, how much your money you're going to need, are you going to get a pension, what's your Social Security going to be, when you should take Social Security, and then those decisions are made. But in your 50s right now, you can still be relatively aggressive. And what people don't realize is when the markets fall, that's when you go ahead and you get much more aggressive.
You buy.
And when the markets are higher and everyone's talking about, oh, you know, they're all too high, and you sit there and go, no, I like this. I like making all this money. That's the time you got to pull back.
That's the difference between the bargain shoppers and the high price shoppers. You have to understand which one you are.
The market's the only place people don't want to buy on sale. I promise you, you'll buy shoes on sale any place, especially if they have a label on them. But when they come to stocks, oh yeah, you. There's nothing wrong with it. I know people like that. But sales are great. But in the stock market, people are afraid of sales for whatever reason. Buy quality on sales. But here's the deal. You can't do it on your own. You need a great advisor. That's one of the things people in their 50s and their 60s need. There's too much stuff going on. There's too much information. There's too much salespeople out there now. You need to find an advisor you trust. Somebody that understands you, your family, what you're trying to do, what you want to do, and really take your needs and your goals into consideration first. Pay off your debt first. It's not about how much money they're going to make. It's how they're going to help you be able to satisfy and retire without all that stress.
And then how do you take today's dollars and try to predict, I mean, with this volatility of the market and inflation just going up and up and up, how do we, account for that inflation when we're looking at our budgets?
Well, you cannot go ahead and say, I don't want to go ahead and have any more growth. You've earned that over the time. Anyone that's 50 years old has seen the markets go up and down. The one thing I can tell you, the markets will go up again, and they will make a new high. They could go lower, but they will go make a new high at some time. And I always tell this story about my grandmother that was 100 years old after 2001. She came to me and she said, Dean, I got $75,000. I want you to take this and invest it for all my great-grandchildren. I won't be here when this happens, but I promise you it's going to make a new high. She said, I got through the Depression, I got through '87, I got through every market downturn, I got through every Republican, I got through every Democrat. The markets always came back. Hell, when I started this thing, I said, we didn't even have cars, much less airplanes and rocket ships to Mars. I said, go ahead and do this. I promise you it'll make a new high. And of course, how many new highs have we made since she passed away in 2002 and 2003? Right? It will happen. The thing is that people say, well, I'm too old there. So when you're in your 50s, you have to mitigate risk. You have to invest to mitigate risk. You have to use the tools that are out there that we didn't have 30, 40, 50 years ago. You have to use inverse funds. You have to use insurance on your portfolio. You have to use these annuities. You can go into annuities today. You can get 3.5%, 4.5%, depending on how long you want to go out. That are A-rated insurance companies giving you that income.
But on the flip side, annuities have, sort of a reputation, right? And a lot of people don't know there's a lot of good and a lot of bad out there. Without a professional advisor guiding you, you could go the wrong direction.
If you are going in and just buying an annuity, not knowing what's going on, you might as well go blind, okay? Because there are so many things to learn and where it fits in and how it fits in. I'm not trying to come down on anyone that just sells annuities. They got to make a living. But if that's all they do, they're not doing any favors to the person that's coming to them for advice. Because you need a financial planner who says this fits in this much fits in, this fits your needs, but if you're doing all this or 50%, it doesn't. It just doesn't.
Again, I think that's the importance of a comprehensive plan, which really is, like we said, unique to that individual. But if I come to you and say, Dean, I don't have a financial plan, I have to bear all my financial cards, right? I'm gonna have to show you all components of my financial life in order for you to make the best decisions about what's gonna work for me.
I've been independent since 1988 because I do not ever want anyone to tell me what I have to sell, push, or do for a client in order to be able to work for them. It's very important to me and the people that work for me that what we do and how we make our money is what's the best for you, not because I make a big fat commission. In fact, I don't even want that 7% or 10%, whatever they pay out in these big annuities. I've learned so long ago in the 80s that anytime I'm getting a big commission up front, it's the worst thing for the client.
Let's talk about that briefly, though, because a lot of people don't know what fees that they're paying within these investments, right? So that's another thing that we need to sort of unearth. That's part of the whole budgeting. Understand your fees and what you're paying.
Yes. Well, what do you want me to do? Make everybody upset in this business? Okay. The whole idea is a lot of annuities are sold for 9 years, 10 years, 12 years, and no one's saying that's bad, but they get a lot of money up front, okay, if they do that. Personally, I want the trails because the trails are like assets under management. That means you're managing it, you're doing something, you're meeting with the clients, you're building a relationship. Relationships are important, all right? You know, there's guys out there that you see a lot of commercials that say, I would never, over my dead body, I would sell an annuity. And other people, that's all they will sell because they do the fear thing that the markets are going down. I don't know if I'm going to sell a new. I don't know what it's going to be until I sit with you. That's the whole idea behind it, is you need to know what you're planning. If you're in your 50s and 60s, there's a good chance you'll have a little bit, possibly, of an annuity somewhere in there, especially with interest rates where they are today, and for the safety of where things are today. But the right one for you. They're getting better. They are so much better than they were 5, 10, 20 years ago. There's ones now, and Stephanie in my office is great at this, and with Dylan and stuff, that you can get a long-term care attachment with it, which is fantastic. There's ones that are great that they do the Roth conversions with it, with fixed index annuities. There's so many nice products today that are meeting people's needs with it, if it fits in with what you're trying to do. But you don't know that until you do the plan.
And you won't know that until you give Dean a call. That phone number is 844-544-4909. This is completely complimentary. There is no risk. If you have a plan in place or you don't, this can be a second opinion or a first. This is something that you need to do now. If you're in your 50s and 60s and these conversations you have not had, you need to give Dean a call now. Get this process started. Who wouldn't want a second opinion to know whether you're on the right track or not?
Our office is right there, River and Campbell. It's accessible. You walk in, you come in. You want to exercise, you go up the stairs. You don't want to exercise, you go up the elevator.
Is there coffee? That's all I need to know.
We have great coffee.
Okay.
I don't even drink coffee. I let the coffee experts decide what coffee they want. We even got snacks if they want snacks. We used to have bagels.
Jeez, coffee, snacks, bagels. I'll bring my kids. I'll see you soon. 844-544-4909. We'll take a quick commercial break. Stay with us, and we'll talk more about how to successfully plan for your retirement in your 50s and 60s.
As a good saver, you've been putting away money during your working years. Studies find that the biggest fear of retirees is running out of money. Market volatility isn't just the downward movement of stock prices, it's the size and frequency of change. The more dramatic the ups and downs, the higher the volatility. This can put savers who are newly retired or a few years away from being retired at greater risk. Today's generation of retirees is not receiving traditional pensions as our parents or grandparents did. Instead, we have retirement accounts such as 401ks or 403bs. These accounts typically expose your money to market risk. The last thing you want right before retirement is to lose a portion of the money you need for income. But how do you turn these accounts into a retirement income? Is it safe to keep all your retirement money sitting in the stock market? The last thing you want is to lose a portion of the money you need for income due to market loss. By working with a financial professional, you can learn how to turn a portion of your savings into an income stream for life and income for the life of your spouse if you're married. We all have moments in our lives when we wish we had taken action sooner. Don't let procrastination reign on your retirement parade. Act now before it's too late. Please call our office to set up your no-cost, no-obligation retirement income review today.
Hello and welcome back to Money Matters. I'm Sarah Peterson here with Dean Greenberg of Greenberg Financial Group. We're talking about how to successfully prepare for retirement, sort of in your 50s and 60s. Let's not make those mistakes. If we plan properly, we can avoid a lot of mistakes.
Right. You got to protect, which means you got to make sure you have the insurance that you need if something happens. You need to have in case something happens to your health, you have to have something like that. You have to invest. You have to invest correctly. You have to invest with the idea the markets are going to go up and down. You have to mitigate it. That's your growth part. You have to have your income part. You have to make sure you're going to have that income for life. Whether you have a pension, Social Security, if not, your investments have to do that. Those are all the things that come into play. And there's only one way you do that, is to put a plan together. Nobody knows what you need. Okay, it used to be you come, because we started off as money managers, and we just managed the money for people according to what they needed. Did they need income? They need this. And over the last 10 years, we've morphed into a financial planning firm. And you have to do that. You have to take into consideration of taxes. You have to take into consideration of income needs. You got to estate needs, all those things, because the wealth is greater than it was. A $500,000 account in 1987 was like a $5 million account today. It's totally different. And so all those things have to come into play as we have grown and get to where we want. And it's important for people that are there to know it's not complicated unless you make it complicated. It's not scary unless it's scary. And if you're out there listening, don't be ashamed to say, I don't understand this, because 99.9% do not understand.
Oh, we talked about this before. It's not part of our formal education, but I think it's a little bit intimidating for some people to bear their financial cards on table. It's kind of like when you go to the doctor, you sort of don't want to know, right? You don't go to the doctor usually because you're like, I'm feeling great, I'm just going to go to the doctor. Maybe there's a problem or whatever, but you don't always want to know for fear that maybe they're going to tell you you're not on the right path, right? Or something's wrong. And sometimes I'm sure people do come to you and they are in a good spot. But if
most people are.
But if they're not, wouldn't they want to know it now?
Most people that come to us are in a good spot for them, okay? The ones that are not in a good spot are the ones that have not ever really looked at their portfolio, just spend money, don't have anything. I mean, if somebody has $10,000 to the name and they're 60 years old, and they've never done anything, and they don't have a pension, they're in bad position. What are you going to do? I mean, they're going to live on what they've been living on. They're going to have to work. But if people are looking for retirements, the way we always dream about retirements and do things, and they've done the right things, most people are there. Now, some people are going to be able to live on $200,000 a year. Some people are going to live on 60 grand. But this is going to be the biggest difference. Most of the people that come to us understand how to live on what they have. Okay? I'm afraid of the next generations. They don't know how to live on what they have, because there's money that's been inherited because our parents and grandparents lived through the Depression, and they saved, and they passed it down, and they taught them to save. I'm really nervous because we don't have pensions anymore, and then and people are supposed to save their 401k plans. There's not that much in 401k plans, and that's going to be the problem. So you have to plan now. And if you're in the 50s and even your 60s, there's ways to put money away to get that lifetime income stream to add to whatever you're going to get. Then it's up to you to make sure you're living with that. You can't live in a $5,000 a month a dwelling if you can only afford $2,000. And if you got to your 60s and that's all you can afford, that's what you're going to do, so you don't have to live, you can live stress-free.
Well, it just kind of comes back to planning properly early, right? Don't wait till the last minute. Hey, Dean, I'm 64 and a half and I want to retire at 65. You know, you got a lot less wriggle room there. So if we plan early, we have time to go through market volatility, ups and downs, and plan for these things so that at the end, what's the goal? To enjoy our lives.
Social Security will be there. Anyone that tells you it's not is crazy. If you're over 50, you're going to have Social Security. I guess I look at this whole thing. I've been a coach, football, lacrosse for 20 years in Tucson, loving it. My whole business has been built about a team, right? This whole thing is about planning. You game plan. And what do you do at halftime? You change the game plan if it's not working. If it's working, you tweak the things that are not good and you make the other things good. This is how you do a whole plan. It's not perfect. This is the plan today. This is the environment we're in. Okay, we work through it. In a year we meet. Every year you meet. Do we have to make any changes? Are there any things we have to do? If yes, do it. If no, then let's continue on the path.
Well, you said the word team, and I just want to give a shout out to your amazing team. You have Stephanie and you have Dylan. And so when people call in, it's not they're going to just get Dean on the phone. You've got a whole team of people, and they're all handling different parts of your financial plan.
If they get me on the phone, it's because they're not answering the phones.
They're on vacation.
But you always get a human being.
I love that.
They always get a human being. I do not like that computer thing.
No robo-advisors. We do not like that. Well, I want to give the people that phone number again. It's 844-544-4909. What you're offering, really, other advisors charge $1,000 more for this. This is a complimentary review. Let's just find out if you're on the right path. Have a cup of coffee and a conversation. Are we on the right path to retiring successfully and enjoying those years?
What you're getting with us, Dave and I have over 40 years experience. Stephanie has almost 15 years experience. You got Dylan, you got Todd, you got all of us that are one team working together for you to be successful. That's what you have. We're not individuals, we're a team. You have us working for you with our knowledge, not only how to put a plan together, but then how to manage your money, protect you, and make sure you go on with your life. Our relationships average 15 to 20 years. That's what we average. You usually expire before our relationships are over.
Oh, geez, there's a thought. And also to remind everyone that this is not a set it and forget it type of situation, because life changes. We review this time and time again. They get to have coffee with you more than once a year. It's all fabulous. That number again is 844-544-4909. Whether or not you've had these types of conversations before, this can be your second or your first opinion. But if you are approaching retirement in your 40s, 50s, 60s, and you have to think about these things, now is the time. We hope you'll join us on the next show, and thank you so much always. We have
Thank
so
you,
much
Sarah.
fun.
You're wonderful.
We loved being with you, and we'll hopefully see you on the next show.